What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then I'd really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video every time I put one out. And in today's video, what I want to talk about is recovery and how important it is for actually the whole muscle building equation. And I think it's neglected by a lot of people. So with all the talk surrounding training frequency, volume, and intensity, and how to organize your training split the best that you can in order to optimize your muscle building potential, I think that takes the forefront, and I think recovery kind of gets thrown under the bus. And the way that I see it is that you can organize your training split to the best that you can. If you're in the gym 5, 6, 7 days a week, that's great, but sometimes more isn't always better. And if you can't recover from your training sessions, then you're not really having a productive one. So I think that's the reason why recovery is definitely neglected by a lot of people. They're so concerned about how many days they should be training a week, how much volume they should be doing, but they're not really assessing their recovery needs. So with all the scientific literature that's out there, it is best to train a muscle group twice per week. But if you consider your recovery, maybe every time you go in for that second session, you feel a little bit run down. Maybe you're sore from your last session, or maybe you're not progressing the way that you thought, whether that be with the results that you're seeing in the mirror or maybe your strength. So really, how productive is that second session if you're not taking into consideration managing your volume correctly while making sure you're giving enough intensity in the gym? So there's things that we can do outside of the gym and even inside of the gym that will make a big difference for helping you improve your recovery. So that's why in today's video, I want to give you my top 5 recovery techniques so you're able to make continued progress and you're not feeling yourself being burnt out from session to session. Starting off with the first recovery technique, and that's actually to periodize your training program. Like I mentioned and highlighted at the start of the video, training a muscle group twice per week is the most optimal, but if you're not able to recover and you're not noticing any strength improvements from session to session, and you find yourself feeling run down all the time, then maybe it isn't the most optimal. Maybe you need to assess your volume and your intensity needs, and I think that there should always be a trade-off between volume and intensity. You can't have high frequency, high volume, and high intensity. You've got to periodize your training program where you focus on different things. So let's say we keep training frequency at twice per week. Now we got to find a way to manage our volume, and I think it's great to kind of have a volume focused mesocycle and then follow that up with maybe an intensity focused. So if we are doing a volume focused mesocycle, then I think that we need to determine kind of our weekly sets and kind of what responds best, and I think it's so individual based on each person. So let's say we were to start like a mesocycle off with 10 weekly sets and work ourselves up to 20. You can kind of figure out as you're going through. Maybe some people might not run into recovery issues at 20 sets and other people might. So I think that you need to kind of have an idea of your weekly volume and just kind of being able to manage that so you know kind of where you run into recovery issues. And another thing that's very important is that each muscle group is different. So for some people, maybe your legs need more recovery time or your back. I know personally for me, it's my back. When I deadlift twice per week, just that second session isn't, I don't really feel as recovered as I should, but something like squats, I find that I'm able to recover quite quickly from. So I think you need to kind of have an idea and kind of have a landmark to know. So you're gradually increasing volume. You're not just going in every single week and doing 20 plus sets, because I guarantee that will catch up to you. So I think, like I mentioned, starting up at maybe 10 sets and kind of working your way up and figuring out where the most optimal range is for you, and kind of periodizing your training so you're including deload weeks to make sure you're kind of giving your muscles a break. I think that's really important from a recovery standpoint, is periodizing your training, but also taking into consideration deload weeks. So like I mentioned, now we're talking about intensity. So now that we've kind of figured out volume, we kind of have a phase that's more volume oriented. Now we need to determine intensity, and I think that intensity is probably the most misunderstood concept in terms of training. When you go into the gym, you want to be able to give it your best effort. So I always think that intensity should be moderate, because it's no fun going in there and just not really trying with the exercises. So we do kind of use an RPE. So I like to kind of keep the RPE at a minimum of 7. I just think that anything lower than that, it should be left for a deload week maybe. So if you are keeping your intensity around an RPE 7, I like to kind of, if it's like a mesocycle that's focused on intensity, then you kind of want to make sure that you're kind of ramping up the intensity. You can do that by reducing rest times. You can also include different techniques like drop sets, partial reps, giant sets, and like I said, just eliminating your rest times in between sets. I think it's a great way to ramp up the intensity. So I think that kind of being able to distinguish what your focus is, are you focusing on volume increase or are you focused on kind of more intensity? I think that if you separate those two rather than trying to do everything at once, I guarantee your program will be better periodized and you'll actually be able to help improve your recovery and including deload weeks when you do kind of feel run down. So that would be my first tip, is to really consider periodizing your training program, figuring out how you're going to manage your volume, what kind of intensity you want to include, including the right intensity techniques at the right time, figuring out which muscle groups respond the best to it, and honestly just kind of assessing it from week to week to determine just kind of how your training's going and are you feeling recovered. Now moving on to my second recovery technique, and that's actually to include foam rolling into your training routine. I've been consistently foam rolling now for the last month, and I've already noticed a huge difference. For those who are new to foam rolling, what exactly is it? It's actually a form of self-myofascial release where you're helping to break down the muscle tissue to help promote more blood flow to the muscles. And we do all know that blood flow is extremely important to be able to deliver nutrients and water to the muscles, so we're not actually impairing our recovery. We're able to actually enhance our recovery and be able to actually push ourselves from training session to training session. So what my advice would be is to include 15 to 20 minutes of post-workout foam rolling into your routine. It's also really good from a mobility standpoint as well. So if you do find yourself kind of having some mobility issues with your deadlifts, your squats, or bench press, or any of your main compound movements, I highly encourage you guys to definitely give foam rolling a shot, and maybe even do it before your workout if you're especially tight in some certain areas. So what I like to do, like I mentioned, is to designate about 15 to 20 minutes post-workout. And if you invest into a foam roller, it doesn't necessarily have to be at the gym. You can do it in your home, which is extremely convenient, but you want to make sure you find those areas that are giving you problems and really focus in on that. And I guarantee if you do focus in those tight areas, I guarantee you'll see improvement over time. And for those who are new to foam rolling, it can be extremely painful, especially if you haven't done it before, or you're not kind of you're going back and forth with it. That's why I think consistency is extremely important, so you're able to kind of notice that something is improving. So like if you take your lats, for example, let's say you're foam rolling your lats and you just feel a really sharp pain when you foam roll a certain area, that's probably a good indication that area is tight and you kind of need to work on it. So I think that foam rolling is a great way to actually address that. So yeah, I highly encourage you guys to include some foam rolling into your training, and I do plan on doing a video that's actually going to go over the fundamentals of foam rolling and just kind of what I do when I do it. So definitely look out for that video. But yeah, foam rolling is an absolute must. I think it's totally underrated. So definitely include foam rolling into your post-workout training routine, and I guarantee you'll notice a big difference in terms of how you actually recover and just generally how your muscles feel. So now for my third recovery technique or tip, and that would be to include more rest days or active rest days into your current routine. The notion that more is always better is definitely not the case when it comes to fitness and weightlifting. And honestly, I was guilty with that when I first started training. I wanted to be in the gym 7 days a week, and I honestly went to the gym no matter how I felt. I did it because I really enjoyed training and I just really love being in the gym, and I'm pretty sure most of you can definitely relate to that. But honestly, I was wondering like why my strength wasn't going up and why I wasn't really improving from session to session. And it was really because I wasn't taking enough rest days. So I guarantee that if you find yourself in the same boat, maybe you're training 7 days a week, try training 5 and really prioritizing those 5 sessions, making the most of them, and really periodizing your training like I mentioned in tip number 1. And I guarantee you'll be getting a lot more out of the sessions, and you'll be actually surprised that you're going to make more progress training less than you are actually training 7 days a week or 6 days a week. And from a recovery standpoint, it's definitely needed. And maybe, like I mentioned, you do really enjoy being in the gym. Well, you can include active rest days. What I really like about active rest days is you're still able to go into the gym, but you're not doing your normal routine. So you can tag on like smaller body parts if you want. One that I really like doing is training abs because that's something that I want to improve on myself. It's something that I always kind of tag on at the end of my workouts. So what I normally do is I separate abs from the rest of my training, and I include them on an active rest day. And then when I go to the gym on one of those active recovery days, I just do abs and I do some cardio, so I'm able to get to the gym. I'm able to really focus on abs so they're not tagged in at the end of my workout, and I'm able to still get my cardio in. And then if I want to do some foam rolling, I think that's a great opportunity to include foam rolling on that day as well, something light that will allow you to kind of improve your recovery and really prioritize that. But another thing I really like about those active recovery days is, let's say you want to improve your technique or form. I think that if you wanted, let's say it was the bench press, for example, you really have a hard time keeping that upper back tightness. I think you can really work on your form on those days. You're just going to load a really light amount of weight onto the bar and just really focus on the form cues, something that maybe you can work on, or maybe it's your grip, or maybe it's just kind of the upper back tightness. Whatever it is, I think that makes for a great opportunity to really work on that, to work on your mobility. So I think that including more rest days, and the notion that more is always better, is definitely not the case. And I guarantee you'll benefit from actually training less if you train smarter rather than harder. So that would be my third tip, is to include more rest days or active recovery days into your current routine. My fourth recovery tip is probably the easiest on the list, but yet it's so easy to screw up at the same time, and that's not prioritizing your sleep or just getting the lack of sleep. There's nothing worse than waking up in the morning and feeling completely exhausted. It's going to have a negative impact on your day, but it's also going to hinder your gym performance. If you're always constantly going into your workouts tired, obviously you're not going to be able to push yourself as if you were well rested. So I think that making sleep a priority should be your number one thing. And if you have to make a sleep schedule by going to bed and waking up at the same time every single day, I think that's going to be your best bet. In terms of the most optimal range, I would aim anywhere from 7 to 9 hours and do this consistently. I think that's the most important part with sleep, is to consistently get 7 hours, and whenever you can get 9 hours, that's even better. But from a science perspective, what happens is when you actually enter your deep sleep, your growth hormone levels, they're at their highest production, which is going to help really rebuild and repair your muscles. And it's also going to help, getting enough sleep is going to help for keeping your cortisol levels in check, which is honestly, if they're out of whack and your cortisol levels are high, it's going to have a negative impact on your muscle building potential. And also, if you don't get enough sleep, your ghrelin levels are going to be high. Therefore, they're actually your hunger hormone. So if you are trying to lose weight, good luck with that, because you're going to be a lot hungrier during the day and you're not going to know why. So honestly, the easiest thing you can do is really stick to a sleep schedule. Really make sure you're prioritizing your sleep, and I guarantee you'll not only feel better during the day, but your recovery will be better as well. My fifth and final recovery tip would be to make sure you're staying well hydrated. You are sweating a lot during your workout, so you need to make sure you're replenishing that. And honestly, I think the number one mistake that people make is they try to play catch up. They realize they don't drink enough water during the day, so they try to drink it all at once. And honestly, you're just going to pee it all out. So I think the best way to do it is as soon as you wake up in the morning, before you reach for your morning coffee. I know that can be hard, but try to get a big tall glass of water into you. And if you when you're working out during the day, try to plan your water intake accordingly. Try to be well hydrated going into your workout, and then after your workout is complete, make sure you replenish that water because you did sweat it out. Honestly, there's a lot of great benefits just to staying hydrated, but from a muscle building perspective, water actually helps transport the nutrients to your muscles. So if you aren't getting enough, then your muscles might not be getting enough nutrients. Also, it's going to help kind of reduce muscle soreness. Alright guys, so that's going to conclude today's video. I hope everybody enjoyed it and found some value in it. Definitely give these 5 recovery techniques a try. Maybe you are doing some, or maybe you aren't doing some as good as you could. I think that assessing your recovery is extremely important. We put so much time into our training and our nutrition. It's kind of the recovery aspect and the little things that we can do that will make a huge difference. So definitely give these ones a try, and I hope everybody enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I do put out a lot of great content, and I want to make sure you guys are here every time I put out a new video. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also turn on the bell notifications, because I do want to make sure you guys get notified every time I put out a new video. So be sure to turn on those bell notifications, and also drop the video a like. I do appreciate all the support, and the feedback is definitely well received, and I'll catch everybody in the next one. All right, peace out.